We gave them a price for $1.8 million just because we were nervous of the city. They came back to us, we were the cheapest bid by far, and we can't use homes so cheap. It's impossible you can complete the product for that. I wanted to discuss something that's been bothering me for a long time. I don't really like getting into politics because it's not the place for politics, but when politics and architecture mix, that's something I always wanted to talk about. And I wanted to address something that's going on in society today. And I think that there's a big misunderstanding between crony capitalism and fraud. And there's a lot of fraud going on. You hear in the news lately about a lot about fraud. But there's a major other issue going on within society, which is called crony capitalism. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this because it coincides with what I know that's going on within New York City on its own merit. And that's much bigger issue than your actual fraud that's happening. Yes, fraud, stealing, but crony capitalism is a disaster. And one of the reasons why it's a disaster, I'm going to give you a couple of examples that I personally know about, and I would like to talk about those examples. I think I'll talk about at least 2 examples, maybe even 3 examples we'll see about this issue. One of the examples that I give you, and a great example of this, is that New York City has a policy that they don't throw anything out. So for instance, if they have a school that's moving or shutting down, that school, instead of throwing out their desks because they're buying a bunch of new desks, they actually take their desks and they store them. And they pay for storage, dead storage, or they have a bunch of computers and the city's shutting down their offices. Instead of wiping the computers and destroying the computers, or potentially wiping them and selling them off, the city stores the computers. Now, what does that do? That doesn't just issue of the cost of storing computers. It also has a secondary issue, is that they'll store the computers and have to pay people to watch the storage computers. So you'll have a massive, massive storehouse, people sitting there working at their desks, basically playing games on the phone, because we've actually walked into these spaces and see them playing games on the phone because they have nothing to do. They're watching dead computers that no one wants anyway, right? They're sitting there watching computers as well as they're watching the computers that are doing nothing anyway. They've been really stored, and they keep paying for more and more space because the more they change over, the more and more space they need. It's absolutely insane. And the fact that the city keeps paying for it without any recollection, if you ran your business this way, you'd be broke in no time. But the city just keeps paying and paying and paying. It's a freaking nightmare. It's insane. And yes, it's not actual fraud because they're actually paying for a product and it looks like they're doing something wrong, but it makes no sense. It's pure crony capitalism, like creating business out of thin air, which shouldn't even be a business. It's nonsensical. That's one example. I'll give you a secondary example. Another example about this is that there was I don't know if a lot of people know, there's a park on 18th Avenue. It's called the 18th Avenue Park. It's a very nice park. They have a bathroom. It's 2-fixture bathroom. I think it's 2 for men, 2 for women. It's a single-story cinderblock building, okay? I've asked multiple builders on multiple different accounts what it would cost to build such a bathroom. And every single person comes back, 100 to 110, maybe $150,000. They've each seen it. That was the max was $150,000. I've asked a local politician what it actually cost to build that. He told me $1.2 million to build that same bathroom. Now, again, it's not fraud because they're actually spending money on building a bathroom. The problem with it is that why did it cost so much money? So now we have to understand this. It actually ended up costing, in construction cost, $150,000. It ended up costing an additional $1 million in oversight because the government has policies for oversight. So for instance, if you have a set of drawings that you want to submit to the city on anything like a DCA submission or anything of that sort, we submit 25 copies because it gets reviewed by 25 different people every other week. That means the amount of money you're spending just on printing and review on insanity just because the city makes it absolutely insane for themselves to operate is in essence creating business out of nothing, throwing money in the toilet like it's going out of water. It's absolutely asinine. It's crazy. This is not a normal way to run a business. Now, you're going to tell me the city's not a business, but the city takes our money and basically blows it on stupidity, and then they tell you they have no money for budgeting. I'm sorry, stop spending our money unwisely. Talk to people that run businesses. It makes no sense. And what got me so angry about this lately is my third example. We have our wonderful mayor, Zoe Mandani, who's about to break ground on a magnificent free store. It's going to cost him $30 million to build it. I'm sorry, for $30 million, It's crazy. Even when I see the construction going on in JFK, they say it's a $19.2 billion project. For $19.2 billion, I can build you 19 cities. Because it costs about $1 billion to build something like that. And then they're building, what, a couple of buildings? The waste is not necessarily fraud, but the waste is absolutely crazy. And if we don't get the waste under control, it's going to be irrelevant, because at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. This waste that's going on, and going back to Zohar Madani's store, $30 million in 5 years to build a store. If I did that in any commercial building, you'd be broke. The guys would go bankrupt. How do you do something like that? It's not normal. And I promise you there'll be overruns. By the time they're done, that building's going to cost you anywhere between $50 and $60 million. And they say, we had to do it because it's crazy. The crony capitalism has to end in order for us to be sustainable. You cannot run a business, and a city is a business. You cannot run a business by blowing money on all sides on things that make absolutely no sense. This has to stop. I didn't want to talk about the corruption because corruption is a separate issue. I don't want to talk about fraud because it's a separate issue because I don't want to get involved in politics. But this is, I can tell you firsthand. How do I know some of this stuff firsthand? I'm involved in some of these things firsthand. I see it. We sent a proposal for a library in Staten Island. And we internally had a conversation, and we said we can easily do the project for, give or take, I would say, we had a pricing in there for about $900,000. We can do it. And we said, we have to put in a proposal a lot more than $900,000. Why? Because we were concerned city submissions, crazy submissions, make us nuts. We gave them a price for $1.8 million just because we were nervous the city. They came back to us, we were the cheapest bid by far, and we can't use homes so cheap. It's impossible you can complete the product for that, which means that there's so much broken systems embedded in there that they can't even assume to do a single building for $900,000. Forget the $900,000 we wanted to do it for. For $1.8 million, we added additional $1 million to just cover ourselves. And they told us we were by far the lowest bid. The next bid closest to us came in at $2.6 million. There's something wrong. This has to stop. This is unsustainable. This needs to stop. It needs to stop quickly, because you want to know where your money's going, where it is? It's going to waste of this. This is your waste that's going on day in, day out. I'm not even talking about migrant shelters that I know firsthand information about and other things of the sort. This is pure crony capitalism, and it needs to stop. And if we want to get the city under order and you want to get your budgets under order, stop blowing money that shouldn't be spent. Stop with all the insane regulations, insane oversight, which makes no sense. It's impossible to function this way. And that's my rant for today.